Omega Man with Charlton Heston in 1971. It's an old Warner Brothers movie. It's based on a Richard Matheson story called I Am Omega, which was then made into the Will Smith movie eventually, called I Am Legend, where he's the last man on Earth and everybody turns into CGI vampire things. Well, this is the Charlton Heston 1971 version. Why do I say 1971? It's very prescient. Here's what happens. I have to go through the whole movie. So 1971, Charlton Heston. Spoiler alert for everything. I just want to talk about it because you know how I like to talk about social engineering and all that cool stuff. 1971 has Charlton Heston as a scientist who's making a vaccine to cure a virus that wiped out most of humanity when there was a war between the US and China, and a bacilli bomb was launched. Bacilli, you mean like lactobacilli and all those acidophilus and bifidophilus and all those things? A bomb like that? Yes, germ warfare. And it's very specific, a bacilli bomb that created a virus that basically asphyxiates people so they can't breathe. Just like the Coronado virus. You know what I'm talking about with a twist of lime? So anyway, yes, Charlton Heston, 1971. What is the depopulation agenda? Chinese-U.S. conflict, and then most of the planet, like, in this movie, gets devastated by germ warfare, and germ warfare, and everybody either dies or turns into like vampiric ghouls that like turn albinos, like even the black people turn white and their afros turn white, and they have to wear very painful 1971 sclera lenses that make their eyes look you know, like not even albino eyes. They're not red, they're just like white vampire eyes, and then they have blood scratches on them and stuff, and they wear robes and they behave like a cult, and they are called the family. And that's what happens if you get the virus and die and come alive again. You become a night creature that can't come out in the daytime at all, so you can only come out at night. So there's a war between the people who survived the virus or didn't catch it, because what you find out later in this film, spoiler alert, I hate spoiler alerts, that's why I said it like that. You find out later that people that didn't catch it can catch it, because later Richie, the little boy, he catches the virus and he starts turning from a black boy into a gray pancake makeup thing where they even stipple his hair with like gray or baby powder or something. And they give him like a gray afro and spots, and it's like, oh look, I've got Benjamin Button disease in 1971. But what's happening is he's turning into, he's caught the virus and he's turning into a vampire. There's some inconsistencies in the virus because some people asphyxiated and died right away, and they took all their dead bodies and buried them inside stadiums. So here's the story. Charlton Heston is the last man on Earth. And he's basically a vampire hunter. He has the vaccine for the cure, and he's gonna deliver it to everybody to save the world before it's too late. But they catch the virus, Charlton Heston and a helicopter pilot, and the helicopter crashes. Kobe and the Coronado virus and the outbreak, and that's strange. This is in the movie 1971, Charlton Heston. So his helicopter crashes, and this is one of the things I love about this movie. It has that great 1970s orangish stage blood. So since it looks like fakey blood, they use it liberally. And this is basically, I think, how it worked. There's a helicopter crash. Charlton Heston survived, which is probably impossible, but he did. So let's cover him in like Sam's Club 1971 equivalent of just like a bucket of orange paint to paint your Dungeons and Dragons miniatures with, and it just looks like 70s Shaw Brothers Dawn of the Dead. My favorite kind of blood, because when it's so fake like that, you're allowed to use a lot of it. So they did. I don't know why, but it's fake and it's orange, and it's more theatrical than gory. So Charlton, and no, it's overstatement. So Charlton Heston survives the helicopter crash, and they dumped a bucket of orange house paint on him, and it's blood. And he survives. He's like, I've got to get the cure for the T-virus. So he gets it, and he's the last man alive, and he injects himself with the cure. But he's been trying to figure out you know, how to make more of a virus. But since the world's ended and he's just like a vampire hunter now, he doesn't try to save anybody because it's just him. And he already has the antibodies against the T virus flowing through his veins. So he's a day walker. So everybody else that's alive can only come out at night. And even the black dudes have white afro wigs that look terrible, and they're covered in white pancake makeup. And everybody that's still alive is a vampire that can only come out at night. They have to wear really painful, I know this is true, really painful glass sclera lenses that they made in the 1970s, where they had to pour like alginate into your eyeball and shit, and it's gross. And then they make a glass lens, and it's really disgusting. And it's painful to wear the lenses because anybody that had to wear them would always tell you that it sucks to wear them. And then I remember like thinking how the world had changed. This is an interesting aside. The progeny's like, hey, look at this. And I was like, wow, what is that? Contact lenses? And they're like, yeah, I'm going to use them for Halloween. And they just explained how easy it was to get them. Oh yeah, I went to the Halloween adventure and I ordered them. And then here they are, they gave them to me. And they were just like, I don't know, like zombie eyes or lizard slits or something. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, cool. And I was like, that was so easy. And I was like, how much did that cost? I was expecting it to be a waste of money. And it was. But I was like, wow, it cost like 25 bucks. It used to be a big deal. That's why I didn't balk at the price. Like $25 for fake Halloween lenses for a party for one night to pretend to be something as an adult. Well, I guess so. You make a family man's wages. What am I going to say? So, yeah, I thought it was inexpensive because I remember that they used to be made out of glass and you couldn't see anything through them, and everybody would always complain about how painful they were, and it seemed dangerous to me because I was like, I'm not going to put glass anything in my eyes. They tell you don't put glass in your eyes. They tell you to put glasses on in front of your face and hope that they don't break into your eyes, you know? So anyway, so there's a lot of sclera lenses. There's like a whole cast of zombie vampires. And it was a big deal, especially in 1971, because it was still a big deal in the 1980s before they figured out the plastic lenses and stuff that you would wear. But I know they had them like contact lenses in the 70s because Bruce Lee had contact lenses. So enough about that and other things about the 70s. Charlton Heston. He's the last blonde-haired, blue-eyed white man, last man on the planet. So the world is his. He goes crazy, like predating, since it's 1971, predating Tom Hanks as Wilson in, what's that movie called? Oh, Castaway. You know how Tom Hanks, you know how Tom Hanks has Wilson in Castaway? There you go, I said it right. Well, 1971, Charlton Heston has a bust of Caesar that he takes from like a history museum or something, and he just does what, this guy does in The Last Man on Earth, where he goes to museums and just collects all the stuff. So this is based on Charlton Heston's Omega Man. I didn't realize how much cool stuff about Last Man on Earth, apocalypse culture, where it's like you just take stuff that used to be precious and important, and now it is precious and important just to you because the whole world is yours and you can do whatever you want. I have to admit, you're welcome, Google, that's a big fantasy of mine. Like, what if the whole world is yours? I've always liked that genre. And this movie in 1971 fulfills, it really fits in perfectly, just as it is, with all the agenda points that's very progressive today. Because it has one of the other main characters, spoiler alert, there's more humans in it. Alright, and they're not misused like in this, where there's too many people and it stinks. Omega Man, which I don't have anything to show you really, because my version of Omega Man is a disc, and I got it as part of a 4-pack, and so there it is, Omega Man. I Am Legend, Will Smith, and the other two movies don't matter. But you know what does? Another version of Richard Matheson's I Am Omega, which is the first version of it is that I'm aware of, Vincent Price. It's one of my favorite movies. As is now that I've seen Charlton Heston's Omega Man, which I've seen before. I'm older, I'm wiser. I kind of dig it. It's also very progressive. It has a kind of disagreeable, unlikable, pretty but dressed down Angela Davis 1970s, you know, pretty black chick, and her name's Lisa. So Charlton Heston is in the mall talking to mannequins and shit, messing around. He's always has a gun on him, and since he's the last man on Earth, Charlton Heston has a lot of outfit changes like a woman, but it's Charlton Heston, he's the last man on Earth. So sometimes he's wearing like a frilly, you know, I don't know what you call it, like a pompadour breastplate thing, like a big puffy frilly collar thing, and he's eating dinner like that, like SpaghettiOs and shit. And outside his window are the vampires at night, and they just can't stand he exists. They're like SJW vampires. The world's ended. We've ruined everything. It's anarchy. Why can't that old man just fade away? He's not fading away fast enough. He's doing shit in the daytime. Well, actually, he's killing them. He's kind of like provoking them because there's vampires alive, and he won't let them alone. Like, he goes out to kill them. He experiments on them. At least he does in the Richard Matheson story. Like, he ties them up and puts them in the sun, and it burns them and sees what it does to them. Because there's nobody else left, and they're like trying to kill them, and they're vampires. They're more mean. There's a really good comic book adaptation of that. Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. It's done in black and white, like crosshatch style and stuff, and it's very atmospheric. If you get into that stuff, as I know a lot of people do, you can probably get it on Amazon for like peanuts on $1, and then pay $4 to ship it to you. I remember reading it in the early 2000s or 1990s. Where's my lighter? And I remember reading it and thinking, oh, I want to, get all 4 of them, because I never read the short Matheson story. 40 Days a Night, it's based on the same thing. Will Smith's I'm Legend, the same story. Charlton Heston's Omega Man. Let me go back to that story and forget about the comic book. That's available. It's called I Am Legend, but it's not the Will Smith thing. It's the comic book, but not the Will Smith comic book if they made a version of that. So anyway, The Whole World Is Yours. Dawn of the Dead. It's another one of my favorite movies. I remember really having to hunt to get it on VHS. It wasn't expensive, but it was hard to find. And it got, no, not Dawn of the Dead, I meant to say. Did I say Day of the Dead? Dawn of the Dead. They have them all. I like the Zack Snyder version too. Like, that's appropriate. Like, there's some scary stuff in it. One of the scariest things that I saw in the movie was just that car crash when they showed it overhead. And when you see those cars gonna crash, like they're gonna crash, and they do. That really got to me. And then I saw it when it came out on, DVD from Blockbuster probably, or local video store. It doesn't exist anymore. Mom and pop gone video store. I rented Dawn of the Dead, and it still affected me the same way when those cars crashed. I'm like, it's just a car crash, but that's movie making. It was a whole fake car crash with all CG everything, and it looked like police helicopter footage or something. So anyway, Dawn of the Dead, they get them all. And you have it's like Garden of Eden in the apocalypse, where everything's provided for. Like when in The Walking Dead they locked themselves in a prison or something. Everything, they had everything. They had whatever. Dawn of the Dead. It's very atmospheric. Romero likes to just set the camera there and let a scene unfold. I like that. That's what I like about Kurosawa, even though I'm not really big. I'm not going to be like film dork out on you or anything, but the stuff I like about Kurosawa is Kagemusha, where it just sets the camera there and you're like seeing a window, and it's like, wow, did they just film like old Japan when they had the earliest cameras or something? And it's just neat to see that. Well, George Romero just sets the camera places in Dawn of the Dead, and it's neat. And a lot of shots are like that. And I still like it. And it had the orange blood like Omega Man, so this fits right in with that. And like a Shaw Brothers movie or Kill Bill or something. I don't know if the Kill Bill blood was orange, but there was like gallons of it, and it's all that 70s shit. So this movie is Omega Man with Charlton Heston's a Warner Brothers movie. So he's shopping in the mall, and he meets Lisa, and she's a hot black chick, but she's like Rose Tico'd down, and then she runs away from him, and for good reason, because we find out later that she's got a whole hive of like kid survivors. It's kind of like, think Logan, and where he has a bunch of survivor kids at a Weapon X program. He's trying to get them across the border. Well, Angela Davis, Lisa, who's like dressing herself down because nobody looked good for her, she has like a whole little baby farm of kids that are mutants because they survived the T-virus, or they didn't get it yet because one of the kids gets it later. Spoiler alert. And I'll get to that later. Richie, that was his name. So Charlton Heston chases Lisa, and he's like, wait a minute, I'm having an hallucination, because Charlton Heston is all Tavistocked out, and he thinks he hears phones ringing in the daytime, because he gets to go out in the daytime and the vampires come in at nighttime. So in the nighttime he sits inside his like special mansion or wherever he lives in town where they can't get to him. So they torture him at night, and he doesn't give a shit, and he just does whatever he wants, and he collects all kinds of cool stuff during the daytime. He has tapestries and busts and all this stuff. They're like, how do you get that upstairs? It doesn't matter. He's got nothing to do with time. He's got a lot of kicky little outfits. And I'll get to more about his outfits later for the big finale. Because he's like a G.I. Joe doll or something. Or Action Penny or whoever they had for girls that changes outfits all the time. And he's got a lot of outfits. Because the world's his. And I guess he's like, I'm going to change outfits a lot. So he does. And it works for the movie. Because there's nothing for him to do but play. It's not really different from this. It's a lot of fun. There's fun stuff in it. He sees a calendar, a pinup calendar with a woman, and he gets angry about it. He tears it off the wall. Not only is it a calendar, but it has a woman in it, and he's the only man on the planet. So he thinks. So he tries to chase after Lisa, the woman he thinks he finds, and then he's like, oh, this isn't a real woman. It's a hallucination. And he's remembering earlier in the movie that I forgot to tell you, where the phones start ringing everywhere in the city, and he loses his mind, and he does a Charlton Heston freak out. Nick Cage freakouts. They're not Charlton Heston freakouts, but Charlton Heston has the thing that he would do, like the Hest hate, or we got the Cage rage and the Hest hate, where he just couldn't take, like, you damn dirty apes, and he has the Charlton Heston thing, and he does it in Omega Man, and he's like, ugh, when he hears the telephones, and he has to block it out of his brain, because the phones aren't really ringing, because he's the last man on Earth, and the vampires aren't out in the daytime, and it's 1971, so they don't have any way of making all the phones ring at the same time. So he just remembers that it's not real. And I was like, yes, there's something to this. Charlton Heston has an irrational fear of the ringing telephone, just like I do in real life. And it's like a veterans thing. And Tavistock Institute studied the effects of shell shock on veterans post-World War II. The phone's ringing now. In World War II, do you hear that? It's the scene I was telling you about. Can you hear the phone ringing? So anyway, he's going to spaz out soon, because the phones are going to go nuts. Can you hear that? It's background noise. I have the movie going while I'm doing the review, just so you know. But it's low enough not to strike me or whatever. The Algobots won't figure it out. So anyway, Tavistock Institute studied the effect, over in the UK, studied the effects of shell shock on the veterans after World War II, and what they found out was that they were heavily affected by sound, and it triggered their traumas of the war. So if they heard like shell mortar blasts that they were trapped in for weeks or whatever the hell it was that they went through, it would fuck them up, and they'd have flashbacks. Alright? So they figured out they could traumatize them with the sounds and movies and stuff. So Charlton Heston is traumatized by the sounds of telephones. And I'll tell you why that matters later when I get to the behind the scene features that were on the disc that I got in this 4-pack of movies that didn't cost me anything. It was like $5 maybe or something. I can't remember anymore, but it didn't cost nothing. And for all 4 of these movies, which are all great social engineering, my hobby has become collecting DVDs because they're worthless now. You can get them from Dollar Tree, which is like, just get rid of any DVDs, whatever shows up there. I have no reason to go there, but now it's become my video store. For the price of rental, I own it, because I remember being a young man with video stores and all that stuff. I mentioned it before. But anyway, this 4-pack, it has special features on the Omega Man DVD, because it's just a repackaged Omega Man DVDs that nobody bought without the original case. And they put 4 discs inside of one case, which is cheesy, but I'm happy to have them. It didn't cost me anything. It's like, I remember what it cost to rent a movie for 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever they allowed for. And it cost you like, I don't know, $3, $4, depending on where you rented it from. And now you own it for that price, forever. So I'm archiving social engineering films, because, you know, a lot of them are. And I like to focus on, like, you know, sci-fi, just like, where are we headed in the future? Here's movies about that stuff. Like Charlton Heston's 1971 Omega Man, where a virus causes people to asphyxiate where they can't breathe in their lungs, stuff like that. And I'm like, this sounds just like the dreaded Coronado virus with a twist of lime. That has me scared about China. And I never liked them before until I worry about them. I'm not kidding. Like, I don't want to hear this stuff. My world peace has room for all of us, and the weirdos will get the help they need, but everybody else just needs to be left alone. And it's a man-made virus in a war between China and the US, and it's a bacilli bomb, they call it. And this is very interesting. I have to get into special features about the movie, and I'll get back to what the whole movie is if you don't want to watch it. It's not for free on YouTube. It's still one of the ones that's appreciated, so you got to pay for it. Maybe you can find it somewhere. I know people, the young people know how to like torrent everything, and they go to wherever they go to do that. I don't care. I have the DVD. So I'm an archivist. They're going to Fahrenheit 451 me, and I'm advertising it to Google. What a mistake. For your benefit, okay? I still like it. It's still entertaining, because if you like Stranger Things and the aesthetics of the past, this movie is so 1971. Ugly, gaudy, fluorescent orange and green, whatever the most disgusting psychedelic paint colors they had at the time that people would tolerate inside to live with, that wasn't a restaurant. It's in here. And then Charlton Heston makes his house a museum while the vampires torture him at night. And they're like SJW Antifas in a social breakdown where they just can't leave people alone. They have to keep tearing shit up. So they won't leave Charlton Heston alone. They want to get him. But he's killing them, admittedly. He goes out in the daytime to hunt them and kill them. So you're pissing them off, Charlton. That's done. I told you this before. So they make an inverted crossbow catapult to shoot shit at them. They're starting to get organized. And life is painful. They wear the painful glass sclera lenses to make them look like Siberian husky dog eyes. That's what they look like. And so they're shooting catapult firebombs at him at night, and he doesn't even close his windows. He just pulls out like his automatic whatever gun it is, and he's like, and he just goes Starkweather on them down below, and he shoots at them. And yes, their crossbow that they're using is an inverted crucifix crossbow, and you know, very symbolic. He's the last man on earth, and they're shooting at it. And they're vampires that feed off the life force of the living, and they can only come out at night, and they torment him. They sing songs, and they chant his name, and they torture him. And I don't know how they know his name, but they do. They have there's something they call him or whatever. And so he discovers that there's another woman, and they catch him. The vampires catch Charlton Heston, and they take him to the stadium, and they're a cult, okay? They wear robes to cover themselves from the sun, admittedly, but they wear like these weird, ugly Celtic druid robes, whatever, like a cult. And they're very diverse. It doesn't matter. Like all these people that died actually in the virus, and they're these weird vampire, you know, white face painted people, and they all have like scars on them with red, and it looks like somebody painted spaghetti on their face because it's orange. It looks cool though to me, and I like the cheesy theatricalness of it and everything. And Charlton Heston's acting, I don't do impressions. Maybe I could do him actually, but all that stuff is very fun. So he gets caught, and they take him into the stadium, and why they take him to the stadium, the vampires, they're gonna burn him and set him on fire. And they got him. Like, it's over. They got him. They're going to set him on fire because that's what they did when the plague happened. They took all the bodies to put them inside the stadiums and burned them. And I don't know if this is related, but it made me think of something that just happened not just happened, but happened in real life, where people went to get help from storms into stadiums that became FEMA camps. They didn't take care of anybody, and the stadium started falling apart because of the flooding. And that made me think of that kind of stuff. And other things that may or may not be happening now, where they're quarantined off people and they're not helping them, or they're just like putting them through, a hell to work out their social credit system for everybody, whatever it is they're doing over there. You can say the eyes of the world are on America and the West, and they are, but the eyes of the people with money are on what China can get away with to their own people, and I hate it. You know what I mean? Maybe the Raccoon City T virus didn't outbreak in Japan or whatever, but whatever, China. So anyway, Omega Man. So Omega Man with Charlton Heston. Guess what happens? He gets saved, but it's by a dude, and you're like, wait a minute. Like, first we saw Lisa, that's her name. We don't know that yet. We see that black chick. See, he's a hallucination. Well, apparently not, because he's being saved, but it's not by her, which is what you expect. No, Charlton Heston gets saved when everybody turns on the stadium lights. You find out they take the bodies inside the stadium, so they're going to burn Charlton Heston like they burned the bodies of all the people. And these are the people that survived the virus, or maybe people that they burned alive that had it. Who knows? I don't know if that's specified, but you could speculate on that. Maybe it's in the Matheson story. I know that they burn the bodies, and because in the I Am Omega, the story or whatever by Matheson, he talks about how his wife and his daughter succumbed to it and everything, and that's in the Vincent Price version as well. And I don't know if that's in the Charlton Heston version, which I just saw it. I'm reviewing it. I don't remember about his family. I just remember that his helicopter crashed when he was trying to, it looked like a bottle of hooch. It looks like the True Blood. And he's trying to deliver that, and his helicopter crashes, but it's still inside the suitcase, and it works. So he's covered in stage blood, and he gives himself the antivirus. So I'm saying that now because we got to go back to the stadium, where a guy named Dutch, who looks like, he's just like a short guy that looks like Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees' younger brother or something. It's not an insult, I'm just saying. And it's a little guy, gets big old 63-year-old Charlton Heston, who's always taking his shirt off in this movie for some reason. He's running around shirtless, and he's in his 60s. And you're like, okay, I don't know who that's for. I guess it was different times, like women still wanted to see like older men do that. I don't care. I don't care about men's bodies, whatever, but it's in it so much. Like, you know, I don't really see that much of a man's body when he's old without his shirt on, unless I go see my father. You know what I mean? That guy I'm used to seeing, but it was weird to see. So he's always got his shirt off, sometimes for no reason. I'll get to that later when it comes up again. He's like, why take his shirt off? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, he gets saved. So then, Mickey from the Monkees, whose name is Dutch, he's this little guy, and he wears weird hippie hats. He's like a hippie guy or something, right? And he takes Charlton Heston back to where there's more survivors. And guess who's there? Lisa, who is the Angela Davis black chick who's dressed down, and she's tough and she's mean and she's not likable. And this is where the progressive stuff comes in. So this movie's very progressive. And one of the screenwriters who's still alive is a woman. It was a husband and wife team of screenwriters, but they're both like engineer. Like he was a scientist and she was some kind of chemical engineer. So there's an interview with her, and she's alive and well in this special features for Omega Man. And she talks about how since she knew about germ warfare and chemical viruses and stuff like that, she said, let's not make this a vampire virus like in the Matheson story, which is what it is. It's like makes people vampires and all that shit. So, and they need blood and stuff, I think. And they hate the sunlight and everything. That's in the original story. And that's whatever's in the Will Smith version. I can't remember. I'll have to watch that one again, right? But the lady who's one of the living screenwriters is very informed. So you know she really did write the story because everything she says about it. She goes into details of why the things are the way they are in the movie. And she changes it from whatever Matheson said to very overtly and directly germ warfare. And I can't help but think how it's been injected into the popular culture of our health food eating craze stuff about all this bacilli cultures and live enzymes and foods. And then what's the virus bomb that's dropped in the war between China and the US that ends the world and wipes out the population of the entire planet? It's a bacilli bomb. And the woman who's a screenwriter is an actual scientist, like a chemical engineer or something like that, who works with these kinds of things. And she said, oh, I could see how in the future we'd be headed more and more towards, like germ warfare. And I'm like, yeah, 1971. They were already on it back then. So this is all like socially engineered for you. And it's coming right out of the lady's mouth. And she's not being rude about it or anything. She's just saying like what her inspiration was for why the movie is the way that it is. And it's the asphyxiation virus that kills you right away, like in Jackie Chan's Water, where there's a virus that if you drink the bottled water, you die right away because you dehydrate and you can't breathe. And it's the same thing. And that's what they said about what's happening with the Chinese virus staying and spreading and incubating, is that it's like very sudden and you can't breathe and it takes you really quick. And that's why hospitals and everything gets overwhelmed right away. There's no zombies, it's just dead people in the real world. But in this movie, there's people that survive it and they attack one another. People who can walk in the daytime and other people who can't because they got the virus. And this is where it doesn't make. There's a disconnect in like how the story makes sense, because some people died and they were burned, and then some people died or whatever, or they got it but they didn't die, and they turned into these albino people. Even if they're black people, they have white afros and stuff. they turn into those albinos with sclera lenses that can't come out in the daytime at all. Like, when they turn the stadium lights on, it's so painful just to see the lights at all that they all just huddle into their cloaks. And then the guy unties Charlton Heston and gets him out of there. And then here's where we get to the band of survivors. It's a whole bunch of kids. It's like the United Nations of kid, except no Asians survived the virus. So it's a whole bunch of kids, and a very unfriendly Lisa, who's the hot black chick, who's dressed down, Angela Davis woman, and she's not nice to Charlton Heston. She's always shit testing him. She's very rude until she gets a post-apocalyptic deep dicking, and she's nice to him. And you're like, wait a minute, she didn't like Mickey from the Monkees' younger brother? No, he's a short guy. Charlton Heston's an alpha male old man, and it's his star vehicle. So he sleeps with the black chick, and then she starts dressing nice, and she's nice to him because he has sex with her. Hey, 1971. Maybe that would work. Is that what the world needs now? Is just a good interracial deep dicking? Which, again, the screenwriter of the movie said this was very unpopular at the time, and it kind of hurt the film. Which, I kind of believe her when she says that, because she's not trying to be progressive or anything. But the movie is very progressive, because she's a disagreeable black chick with an afro that dresses down, again, until she gets boned by a 63-year-old Charlton Heston. I guess she still got it. And then she's nice to him, and then she immediately becomes a vampire and joins the other bad guy's side. What you also find out is that there's a black kid named Richie, and he's like 14 years old, and he's turning from the virus because he got it. Like, you thought all the people that were alive, all these kids that were the survivor kids, that they couldn't get the virus? No, one of the kids gets the virus and he's changing, and they're taking the makeup and putting on his face, and he's turning gray, and they put the same makeup in his hair, on his afro, and he's just turning gray, and they put the lenses in his eyes, and I'm like, God, it must be very painful, because it looks like he really is like a 15-year-old kid or something, playing like a 13, 14-year-old kid or something, and he had to wear those glass lenses. And Charlton Heston says, I'm a doctor, damn it. I made the vaccine. And I know it works because it's running through my blood antibodies. And they make up some gibberish, which may be real stuff, because the lady that did it knew about these things, and she wrote the screenplay. Again, very odd. How interesting that the people who write the screenplay for Omega Man are interested in germ warfare. Say that 5 times real fast. And be me. 5 times real fast. And I am me. I did it. Done. Next. So anyway, it's very interesting on the special features, which is probably for free on YouTube. If you want to see the special features for Omega Man, if it's on YouTube, I will put it in my playlist. You should check out my playlist. The best one is public liked videos for all to see, where I put other people's content that's good. So if special features for Omega Man is there to be had for free on YouTube, I'll give it to you so you can see the interview with the old lady chemist that wrote the screenplay for the movie that's about germ warfare, that's very prescient right now, and also very progressive, because like I said, she's just very SJW. She could be one of Harley Quinn's bad girlfriends, which is a better title for that movie than Birds of Prey. It doesn't even make any sense. Harley Quinn and the bad girlfriends. Make them bad. Not just crazy. So anyway, she's all Angela Davis and disagreeable, and then she gets makeup and changes everything, and then turns into a vampire and joins the bad guys, because after Charlton Heston figures out his blood lab stuff and makes the cure, makes the true blood to change people from vampires back into humans again, so that even the people that survived, that have turned into the, white-faced vampire people with the painful contact lenses, Charlton can change them back. He made the formula, and he changes Richie back, and he's good again. So Richie thinks he's going to save the world, and Charlton Heston, he talks to Charlton Heston, and Richie and Charlton Heston have a conversation, and Charlton Heston says there is no cure for those people, and Richie says, why don't we just tell them that there's a cure, and we can change them back? And Charlton's like, fuck them, they're too far gone, they won't work. And he's just like saying it, like it's not even true. He's just like, I don't fuck him, who cares? And the kid's like, geez, mister, that's harsh, or something like that. He's very polite, very genial, 1971 black kid in a rated R movie. So he's like, I know, I'm gonna go to to the zombie vampire cult, which he does, and then they kill him, and he's like, but I have the cure, and I'll save us. And the cult leader's like, no, we like it this way. I'm in charge here. If there's no cure, everybody will just do whatever they want, and they don't need me anymore. And we did a lot of horrible things. We're SJW, Antifa people, and we got our anarchy that we wanted, and there's no going back from the horrible stuff we did. We just have to go along with it now. So they kill him. They kill little boy, and Charlton Heston goes to the church, and I don't know, I can't remember why. And then he finds the dead kid there, and all the vampires are gone. So then he goes to find his girlfriend, and then you find out that she's been transformed into one of them. She's a vampire now, which you kind of find out earlier when she's getting groceries, because the whole world is hers, and it's neat. It's neat. It's like all done in studio lots. And in the behind-the-scenes special features, they say, well, we had the studio lot, and since we wanted to make everything look really rough, we couldn't have anything looking nice, so we had to tear up the studio lot, so we can only film on Sundays and weekends or something, and holidays, to make Omega Man. And I'm like, there's probably some kind of line there, because they literally show you doing the set decorating. It's just newspapers. They're throwing out newspapers all over the place in the studio city, and the windows look like they're like not right or something. And that's it. It's just newspapers. There's your apocalypse. You want to know how to do apocalypse? Just let newspapers be all over the place. This is 1971. I don't know if that flies anymore, because there's not going to be newspapers or magazines all over the streets. There'll be nothing. Garbage, food wrappers, and gas station food things. That's what'll be everywhere. Just say, if you're making a dystopian sci-fi movie, save all your junk food you eat in garbage bags, as long as it's dry and doesn't have any like stuff that will rot. And then when you have a bunch of it, throw it in your grandmother's backyard. And it's a dystopian. Look at the wasteland. It's all junk food everywhere that you lived in your gamer lifestyle. Not you, but whoever I'm making fun of there. But anyway, that really is. They show you. I'm like, that's so transparent. They're like, yeah, we could only film on certain days because we ruined the sets. And all they did was newspapers. And then there was a stunt where they made a fake facade where Charlton Heston crashed a jalopy and it went over sideways. And even in the special features from the 70s, they made it look like he was, because there's interviews with him, and they make it look like he's actually doing the stunt and getting out. And like, he didn't do that. But they make it look like he did, even in the special features. But it's not a special features. It's special features on the DVD. But in this movie, they did make a behind-the-scenes featurette of Omega Man that's made when everybody's still alive. And they interviewed Charlton Heston. Again, if it's out there to be had for free on YouTube, I will put it in my playlist of public-liked videos for all to see. I don't want to get out the megaphone just for that. Usually I would, though. Anyway, so Charlton Heston's in it, and he hires like a social anthropologist or psychologist, some weirdo that seems like an actor pretending to be a psychologist, and he says, how would this man survive the trauma of being the last man alive? So this guy gives his bullshit like Scrooge McDuck's cousin, erudite Alan White's bullshit style answers. Like, I think he would be like this. And like, who is this guy? And Charlton Heston's like very engaged, like, getting into his performance. And like, oh, Charlton Heston, you're an actor weirdo, even in 1971. And it's all, the guy says nothing. Not Charlton Heston, the psychologist guy. And then that's what makes Charlton Heston go crazy when the phones ring. Those are this guy's flourishes. So that's in this behind the scenes footage of Scrooge McDuck's, I'm the scientist guy of Disney, of Warner Brothers Animation. And he's talking to Charlton Heston, and he's like, this is what I did to get in character to be last man alive. And I'm like, forget about that. I bet Vincent Price didn't do any of that shit. He collected the paycheck, he bought some Picasso paintings in the hotel room he lived in, and he minced around the apocalypse. Hey, Charlton, why are you running around with your shirt off so much? And here's something I want to say before. It didn't make sense. So Charlton Heston and the black chick, before she changed into a vampire, they're making a blood transfusion juice. So he lays down for her to take blood out of him, and he takes his shirt off and everything. And you're like, all you had to do was just lay down. like, you know, he's wearing like a jacket, take the jacket off, he's wearing a short sleeve shirt, roll his sleeve up, and take the blood out. But no, he has to get shirtless again. He's like, the women want to see the heck pecs or whatever he was thinking. The gay production designer or whatever, the cinematographer was like, make him take his shirt off again. I don't know what it is, but he takes his shirt off a lot. That was the for no reason. So then, Richie's dead. He saved that kid with the vaccine. The vampires don't want the vaccine. Charlton Heston was right. You can't teach those dirty Antifa SJWs nothing. They gotta go. So he's trying to save his girlfriend because he has a vaccine. So now that he banged one intern, for some reason she turned into a vampire or whatever. She joined them, I guess, or she got the virus and survived it. She's a vampire woman now with the lenses and everything. So she can't see. And she kind of just lets Charlton Heston push her around, even though she's a vampire and stuff. So there's a fountain that's lit up, and Charlton Heston's standing in it symbolically and everything. He's got the vaccine, and he's trying to save Lisa, the Angela Davis vampire woman. He's like, come with me, I've got the vaccine. He's like, no, I must go to my vampire master, because for some reason the leader of the vampire cult is calling to her, and now this is where we get the idea that they're all part of like a hive mind, which wasn't set out before as far as I noticed in the movie. And now she's like, no, I must go to Fabian or Vivian or whatever the guy's name is, and he's an albino guy with long white hair, and he's got, you know, like they all look like that. And now she looks like that too. She's got a white afro, and they put like cobwebs in her hair. I don't know why, but she's got like cobwebs in her hair and shit. And she's like, no, I must go to you because I'm controlled by the one vampire master. That's never explained. It doesn't make any sense. But she belongs to him now, so she's torn between joining other vampires because she looks like them now, and Charlton Heston. But she's still weak and everything. So he pulls her away. But that's when the vampire, now I guess they have superpowers. And this vampire sissy guy looks like Edgar Winter with a weight problem. He throws a spear into Charlton Heston's chest, and he gets speared in like Jesus Christ pose, and the blood starts spilling out in the fountain. And then you're like, that's weird. And then it goes to black, and like, I guess that's it. Charlton Heston's dead. He didn't save the vampire girl. He's got the juice. And then in the morning, you see because the daylight comes out, you see the caravan of Dutch. Remember him? He's a beta male provider that couldn't get any pussy, even when he was the last man on Earth with Lisa, the black chick, before she was a vampire. She wouldn't get with him. But immediately Charlton Heston shows up, and he's in. All right? So Dutch, the beta male provider, has all the kids in their little hippie jalopy, because it's like a little tiny hippie jalopy thing. And I'll get to some other weird little details and flourishes about this movie later, like him watching Woodstock like fondly, like, oh, if only we were almost at peace. And Woodstock is bullshit. It was a social engineering program. It's nonsense. It doesn't matter. So he finally goes to the movies to watch Woodstock the movie, which is lame. It happens. It's in there. And so anyway, the jalopy rolls by, and there's Charlton Heston in daylight in the town square in a fountain, bleeding out with a spear through him still, or maybe he pulls it out. I can't remember. I think he pulls it out, but he's still alive in the morning, just bleeding out, and the fountain in the same spot, and possibly hanging like by one arm, which really wouldn't happen, you know. But he's just there like, I'm Charlton, I'm dying. And then the guy's like, hey, come on, let's go. And it's Dutch with the caravan of kids, like the end of Wolverine. And then there's Logan, Charlton Heston, in the fountain with the spear through him instead of being pierced like Logan was through the log. And Dutch is like, hey, come on, let's go. I'm beta male provider. Where's Lisa? And he's like, ugh. And then apparently Lisa didn't go away with the vampires. She just huddled down for purposes of keeping her alive and giving her the vaccine so she can be alive, because there's not a lot of characters in this movie. They kept her alive stupidly and possibly because she's so drawn to the vampire guy. Yet when Dutch shows up in the morning with the kitty caravan in the dune buggy or whatever it is he's driving with his funny little hippie hat, he looks like a little leprechaun man. And then oh man, the worst toupee I've seen in a long time. Dutch, he was losing his hair in 1971 as a young guy, as young virile beta male guy or bucka guy. They do an interview with him, and he's looking great, but he's bald. And he is wearing a Roverdale fox rat on top of his head. What a doozy. A horrible wig. So if that's in my public like videos, you got to be sure to catch Dutch's horrible wig. It's so bad. It's like, it's just on top. The light shines through it. It's bad. It's like, hey, just be old and shave it off like Curb Your Enthusiasm or something. I don't know. Hey. So anyway, it's sad. I don't want to pick on that guy. It's a good performance. He's a good actor. Maybe he's in other things from the 70s. I don't remember. But anyway, he's like, come on, let me get you. And Charlton Heston's like, no, leave me. They should have just picked him up. He could have died driving along with him. But he's like, no, I'm going to die here. And then for the end credits, he dies. But in the meantime, Lisa, instead of going on with the vampire horde that she was so drawn to, it got Charlton Heston killed for no good reason. Alright? Because I have to die. It's a eugenics thing, and I'm the last white man, alpha male. I have to die. I said this movie's very progressive. All that's left is a little tiny Irish beta male provider guy with a bunch of kids. So he takes the black chick. And it was, they said this is very unpopular at the time, that Charlton Heston went to bed with a black chick in that movie. They said I don't know if that was true or not, but apparently they said it didn't help the press of the film. And I'm like, I don't know if I buy that. Think about it. But that's what she said. And it's an old documentary from the 70s. But it's a mishmash. There's a thing from the 70s, and then they have like updated stuff that they insert in with it. So there's the original behind the scenes documentary, which they made, showing them like filming them shooting the zombies with the shrouds on and shit. So it's a real behind the scene thing from the 70s when Charlton's alive, the director's alive, the psychologist's alive, and then they go back into the future. They go into the present time whenever the DVD was released for the special features, where they made a new documentary where they talked to everyone who was still alive, which again was Dutch. I'm trying to like put together in my mind like, how could I see him now and the documentary from the 70s? That's the whole thing. So anyway, terrible toupee. Don't even try when it's so bad. So I never even lit this thing. So it's very progressive, very diverse. There's no qualms about Jungle Fever. They go for it, unless you're a beta male guy. But now he's gonna wind up with her anyway, because Charlton Heston's dead and everybody else is kids. And the oldest guy who would have been growing up into being man, which was Richie, is dead now because the vampires killed him. So Charlton Heston dies in a fountain, kind of needlessly. They should have tried to take him along. But then he's like, ugh, and he actually dies and they drive away. And you're like, good, it's like Logan, where, the kids go away and, and all the alpha males have died. Like the Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood or something, whatever. I'm not really saying that. It's a different kind of movie, Unforgiven. But, death of men and all that stuff. Are they character defaming Clint Eastwood yet so he starts coughing, doesn't feel good, but they make him feel bad about himself? They're trying to do that to him through social media. Don't worry, they'll get to it. So anyway, Charlton Heston's Omega Man. Yeah, I recommend it. It's good, I like it. And it's good because as movies get older and the world gets more like, oh, remember the past, like things were easier then? Yeah, like you get to see what the world looked like. It's a neat window into the past of the world ended in 1971. And it's still the early phases where Charlton Heston can go to the supermarket to get stuff. So, got a lot of agenda checkpoints in there. I mentioned them all before. Do I have to go through them now to summarize? Progressive, Jungle Fever, germ warfare, bacilli bombs, a war between US and China that resulted in people getting sick and dropping from not being able to breathe, not unlike Jackie Chan's Water, where they wanted to unleash a virus that when people drank water it would dehydrate them and they couldn't breathe and they would die. Horrible, harsh realities of the T virus infecting people as we speak, or at least using it to quarantine people and socially engineer them into police states worse than whatever it is for China already, and to make that for everybody. I don't know. I want God to squash it, I want all their worst plans to fail and be revealed as plans, which it's already been admitted that, oh yes, it was the germ warfare thing. Omega Man was 1971, so that stinks. What else can I say? I Am Legend is the latest version of the movie I'm aware of that had a lot of money spent behind it. So here is it. We have Richard Matheson's story. That's first. Germ Warfare, Vampire Apocalypse. We have Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price. The last man on Earth is a gay man who was closeted and married, but his wife died and he still misses her because that's all he knew of love, and he minces around the apocalypse. It's great. And he dies at the end of this one too. And I hate that happens to him. But I'm leaving you with a bright cloud. I want to give you something good that you like at the end. I know it's something that I like, and I think you might like it too. Unless you're a woman. You might like it. But if you are a woman, you're going to like this too. It's made for women. But I like it too. It's womanly, but I like it too. But first, and then we had Omega Man with Charlton Heston. Okay? 40 Days a Night. It's not the same thing, but it fits in with it. You could put that movie in there if you want. I like a movie where Josh Hartnett turns to dust at the end. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I have nothing against that guy. I heard he left it all. That's cool. He's like, I don't want to be part of that blood club. I'm leaving. He left. Good on him. He was supposed to be a big star. And he said, fuck that. I Am Legend. Will Smith. That's the latest version of Richard Matheson's I Am Omega, which is The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, which is Omega Man with Charlton Heston, which is Will Smith's I Am Legend. Forget about the other two movies. So who survives the apocalypse? Last Man on Earth movie. Or you have this jag off and they ruin it with too many people coming into it and no vampires or anything. Not even. Anyway, this could have been good, and it's an idea that bears doing like 7 times over till they fucking get it right with different people. I don't care if it's a woman, female lead. The Last Woman on Earth. Any of that stuff is still interesting to me. I didn't see that one yet. The Last Woman on Earth. Make it interesting without hating men to be like, oh, it's so great with no men here. I can pee with the seat down forever. Whatever nonsense. You don't have to shit on how great it is, alright? Because there'd be no point in being the last woman on Earth except for to find another man so you could restart the planet. I get that's a natural outcome of being the last man alive. You find somebody else and wow, they're way out of your hotness class, but there's nobody else around, so guess what? It's gonna be true love. Whatever. So, what do I leave you with that's something nice? Something everybody likes, a blonde and a brunette. Night of the Comet I talk about all the time, now I can show it to you. You wanna see it? You wanna see Night of the Comet? I love the idea of this. People turn into red brick dust because it's really cheap and easy. And it's red like blood, but it's not blood. So it's end of the world fantasy with 2 girls in it, and they just get to go shopping in the apocalypse. And it's I Am Legend, Richard Matheson's Omega Man, because again, the people that survive, it's a comet goes by and turns everybody to red dust. But everybody who's inside like a metal building or bomb shelter or whatever that survives it, they're not affected by the comet, so they don't turn to dust. But some people are partially exposed and they become vampires. And it's just like I Am Legend and 28 Days Later and everything. They don't want to come out in the daytime. They don't like it. And it's in 1980s. The soundtrack's all vaporwave and great, and Stranger Things and synthwave and retro wave. And it has a radio station that looks right out of some bullshit like, hey, we're going to make a fake version of the 1980s in 2019 or 2020. And it'll look like what they actually did in the real 1980s when all this shit was real. And they have a radio station and a Carmine Ragu, post-apocalyptic survivor, good guy, Italian guy. Hey, oh, I'm Tony Danza, survived the apocalypse. And he's like a little fat guy, and it's great. And he's like the guy, he's like the male lead. But the real leads are the 2 sisters that they were very popular in the 1980s. I forget their names. One of them's like Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Is that it? Something like that. And the other one's little chipmunk cheeks. And it's a blonde and brunette sisters that survived the apocalypse because they're both fooling around with boys in like tool sheds or in a movie theater metal box room or something like that. and they survive the apocalypse. So they go shopping, and all they have to worry about is Richard Matheson vampires from I Am Legend and Omega Man and Last Man on Earth. And it's the same story, but it's a 1980s retelling of it, and it's the most upbeat and jovial. And I said, it's like one of those, like, hey, what do you want to watch if you don't really want to watch anything that has any stakes of a horror movie, and it's your empty end of the world fantasy with low stakes and everybody wins at the end, and everybody gets a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and Mary Warnoff is in it as a kindly vampire that doesn't want to hurt the kids. She's like, you know what, we're horrible people, we're not going to live off of your blood. Because that's what happens. If you survive the apocalypse, you're probably scientists in underground bunkers, but you still got affected. So you become vampires that have to feed off the blood of the living. It's just a retelling of Richard Matheson's I Am Omega, or whatever that I Am Legend, or whatever the original story is by Richard Matheson. And is Richard Matheson the right name, or is that fucking actor's name? Isn't there an actor named Richard Matheson from like Animal House or something like that? Did I even get the name right one time? It doesn't matter. The last name's Matheson, and he wrote the story. It's not even very long. It's a novella or something, a short story. Who cares? This is good. I talk about it all the time. What's your light, kicky, dystopian sci-fi that you would like for the future? Because everything's all 80s and retro, and the music and the soundtrack and cute girls and shopping montages, and everybody gets to pair up with somebody at the end, and everything's a new Eden, and all the vampires finally died. Because it's like everything that you don't get in every other I Am Legend version, which is why I saved it for last, because it has a happy ending for them. I guess Will Smith's I Am Legend has a happy ending too, but it's only on the deleted scenes, and you used to be able to see it on YouTube, because that's how I found out it existed. I heard about Will Smith's I Am Legend, and since he was so famous for being in bad movies, I didn't care about it. And I like the idea that they can do the version of I Am Legend where he doesn't have to die at the end. So, Charlton Heston, he at least several times plays one of the last white men on Earth. And remember that in Soylent Green? He's like, I'm the last not crazy white man on Earth, except for the guy that saved up all year to buy a piece of lettuce. That's Soylent Green. That's another movie. It's not like these. It's Charlton Heston, but it's not the same. So, but they get him at the end of that one too. So I Am Legend, Will Smith dies, but in the deleted scenes, they did a fully finished with finished effects and everything ending, where he survives at the end. I'm like, yeah, do that. And the vampires and the people team up, and they're like, maybe there's a way that we can figure this shit out and not kill each other. I like that ending. I don't want to live with vampires or demons or whatever they became, but I don't think you can turn back from the Will Smith I Am Legend vampires because they're digital effects. But the special scenes have their own turn in the movie. I like that. And that's why if you watch I Am Legend, he dies. Okay, he dies at the end to save the girl and the kid. That's one of those earlier 2000s versions of the man must sacrifice himself so that the single mom and her kid can go on, which I know you know about that now. But in this one, it has a happy ending, and it has all that cool stuff that's the very popular aesthetic of the day, and you can adjust the colors on your monitor or levels. This is, if I'm not mistaken, still available for free on YouTube. Again, look at my public videos for all to see in my playlist section of my YouTube page. And don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and check all. And if Night of the Comet is there to be had, I'll put it in that playlist, because the video has been there for free for years to clip grab in nice quality. You know, not all shitty, pixelated and everything where the colors are washed out, or somebody put their camera, did boomer vision like I do, where they put the camera to the TV. No, it's well done. This is an expensive DVD now. It's like a $30 DVD because I don't know why. It's out of print. And I guess because it's out of print, it's free. So clip grab it while you can and save it for rainy days if you're lucky to have somebody to pair up with. It's a great, let's do a dystopian sci-fi thing. Oh, you know what I could have put in there? Warm Bodies. That's the one where there's a girl who survived the apocalypse, and the boy is a zombie, and then love turns zombies into humans again. That's light. I guess that it's not I Am Legend or anything, but since it came to mind, I'm like, there's a romance thing about apocalypse that has a good ending. Love wins. I like that. That's your ending. Love